Good morning, everyone. You know, I'm from New Orleans. We got to start everything off with a greeting. Today, guys, I want to talk about the word pivot. In basketball, pivot means to make a 90-degree turn. In business, pivot means a shift or change in strategy. I want to tell you guys about my personal pivot journey. And I want to tell you guys about that by describing it in those 5 letters that make up the word pivot. So let's start with P, preparation. It's 2014. I had just moved to Washington, D.C., started my corporate career in corporate finance. As a native New Orleanian, first-generation college graduate, this was a pretty big deal. I had never really left the South before, so taking on the cold climate in Washington, D.C. definitely was a shift. But I did have some friends that were very close. I had some friends in Howard Dental School, so we used to hang out a lot. And they used to always ask me, Jerel, we're going to be making a lot of money one day. I know you're the finance guy. What should I be doing with my investments? What should I be doing with my budgeting? What should I be planning to do? And I always gave them my token answer, hey, make sure you're investing in your 401k, make sure you are monitoring your expenses, and you're not living beyond your means. But something started to click there, and I said, what does a career in financial planning look like? And I started to do some research, and what I found was pretty alarming. Less than 2% of all certified financial planners are black. And for someone who was coming from a situation where, again, I was a first-generation college graduate, I thought something isn't right. You know, this could be an opportunity to really make an impact in our community and to help people who look like me from a millennial standpoint as well as a demographic standpoint. So I started to continue to do some research, and I looked at the traditional firms, and I said, I don't think I really fit that model. So instead, I looked up how to create your own financial planning firm. And on a sunny afternoon in 2015 in Richmond, Virginia, in a 1-bedroom apartment, I created Millennial Financial Solutions, which is a virtual-based financial planning firm. And from there, guys, was my next pivot, innovation. Starting your own financial planning firm is just like any other entrepreneurship journey, right? You have to start from the bottom and figure out what it is that's going to make your journey special. So for me, the challenge was, how do I make financial planning unique and personable for people of my demographic? So that required a lot of patience and a lot of time. So instead of having a traditional 9-to-5 schedule as I would with my corporate job, I found myself getting up earlier. Next thing you know, my schedule is now 7 to 10. I'm taking 2 hours before my corporate job and 3 hours when I get home to flush out what this business could look like. And then in that time process, I actually found my production in my corporate job waning. But at the same time, I found my passion for financial planning growing. So I started to say, I think I need to come up with an exit strategy. I don't think the corporate thing is going to work for me. So I said, you know what? 2018, saving my money, and I'm leaving. But of course, guys, we can make that plan, but it never happens out that way, right? In 2017, my company had a big job event where they laid off over 1,500 employees. And of course, I was one of those employees. So while I did get a nice, hefty severance check, I had a key inflection point to make, a pivot, if you will. Do I continue on my journey in corporate finance, or do I go full-time pursuing financial planning? Of course, I chose the full-time financial planning. But what came with that was another pivot. And that pivot for me, V, viability. One can create a company, but in order to make it profitable and viable, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And that work leads to 2 things. One, the courage to step out on your own and chase your dream, but also the sacrifice that's required for it to be successful. Case in point, purchased my dream car. It was an Audi A7, peanut butter seats. Guys, it was beautiful. But something was up. Something was wrong. I said, you know what? I don't know if this is the right decision, knowing that at some point I'm probably going to go full time. I bought it while I was working, but knowing that I was eventually going to go out on my own, 13 months later, I sold it. And it was several reasons why I decided to sell that car. All right. One, I know I needed to reduce my expenses if I wanted to make sure my company would be viable. Two, I wanted to find a way to turn a liability into an asset, right? So instead of riding around in my nice, shiny Audi A7, which, again, was my dream car, I decided to trade it in for a more economical car, a Ford Fusion. You know what I did with that car? I turned into an Uber driver. So now my schedule consisted of waking up at 4:30 a.m. At this point, I had moved to Dallas, Texas with my previous job. So I would wake up every morning at 4:30 a.m. and drive Uber from 4:30 to 9:30 a.m. Make sure that my bills were covered. But what that did, that gave me 40 to 50 hours a week to really focus on growing my business. And those 2 years were very hard. I would not lie to you. My income dropped severely in those 2 years. But that sacrifice made way for another pivot. Opportunity. So fast forward to 2020. My family and I, we moved back to New Orleans at this point. At this point, I'm actually a certified financial planner. So the journey I started in 2015 now culminates in me being at the top of the profession. My company is profitable, and we have a growth trajectory. And I'm on the West Bank, and my dad's best friend, his name's Sean. Sean owns a bar on the West Bank. And he says, hey, I'm looking to sell the bar. You know anybody that wants it? For whatever reason, I went, me. Had no reason to buy this bar, never had hospitality experience, but what I did have is confidence. The confidence that the previous 4 to 5 years prepared me for an opportunity that can transcend different industries. I felt like I know how to run a business, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, a financial planning firm. I built those horizontal skills to make sure that we could survive in any industry. So with that, we took that concept, turned it into an upscale cocktail lounge, and that actually became my first 7-figure company. So all of the planning that went into Millennial Financial Solutions actually came out, created another business that ended up being successful. Now with that journey, obviously came some setbacks. We had to deal with COVID-19 restrictions, and of course, being in New Orleans, we have to deal with hurricanes, right? So we had to deal with Hurricane Ida. But what I didn't know, what was going to come because of the opportunity that I took, was an opportunity to teamwork. So in 2022, another certified financial planner from New York reached out to me and said, hey, Jerel, I'll be in town. I heard your place is real nice. I heard you guys have brunch. I want to come over there, right? So she came, had a great time at brunch. But we started to have different conversations about the levels that our respective companies were at. And the conversation turned to, should we merge our firms? Now, throughout this whole journey, I've always prided myself on being independent. The success measure that I put on myself was the only objectives that I had to reach. But when I sat back, I realized that the impact that I'm currently making, am I limiting myself? Am I not positioning myself for the opportunities that are available? So There's a famous African proverb that I love to recite. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Maybe my end goal wasn't to necessarily own my own firm. Just maybe my end goal was to position myself to be around like-minded individuals so we can make a greater impact. So with that being said, we made the decision to merge our firms in 2023 into what's called Zenith Wealth Partners. And the key here is to not use the pivotal moments in your life as a means to an end, but use it as a bridge to the next destination. Everyone, my name is Jerel Butler, and thank you guys for having me today.